Hi everybody, welcome to this third chapter entitled Morphology. You are all familiar with morphology from your S4 Introduction to Linguistics schools. We are going to repeat some of the basic notions here, and we are going to to go deep into some other matters. Now, of course, morphology is the study of the word formation, which means it deals with how words are constructed from morphemes. So what do we know about the way words are formed? These are things that we are going to explain through this lecture, which is going to be divided into different parts. And this is just the first part of this new chapter. In addition to sounds and units of sounds, language can also be divided into units of meaning. This is something you know. Thus, words are composed on the one hand of sound units, syllables and segments, and on the other of meaning units called morphemes. Of course, you know that the definition of the morpheme is the smallest meaningful unit. So there is nothing smaller than this unit here which can be meaningful. And this is what we're going to explain it clearly through concrete example. So here we have got, first of all, we can divide words into smaller units. These smaller units which constitute words which are meaningful, okay, we need to identify them, and we should know how to divide these words. So for example, we have got here the word storm as one unit. It has got meaning, it's meaningful. Now if we divide it further, we are not going to obtain anything which has got meaning. But what about stormy? In stormy we have got already the word storm, the morpheme storm, which is already identified as a meaningful unit, plus this y here, which of course, as you know, it can help us derive the adjective out of the noun storm here. Same thing here, banana is one unit, one morpheme, but in bananas it's two things here. We have got the word banana, the morpheme banana, plus this s which indicates plural. Now talk, once again, one morpheme here, talking, it's talk plus ing. Okay, so here it's easy to divide words in terms of their morphemes. Now when we divide words into morphemes, we can identify different types of words. We can talk about monomorphemic words such as talk, cat, boy. All these units are composed of just one morpheme, and it is one word at the same time, so it's monomorphemic words. Same thing for cat, talk. Now in other cases we can talk about bimorphemic words, composed of two morphemes. For example, write, ing here, fight, ing here, write and er, fight, er here. Okay, so notice first of all that we can establish a unit as being a morpheme in a language because it is found in different contexts. For example, er is found in writer, fighter, and other contexts. Ing is established as a morpheme which has got a certain meaning in English because it can be attached to verbs like write, fight, and other verbs. Now we can also talk about what we call polymorphemic words. For example, unquestionably. Here we have got unquestionable. Why? So we have got four morphemes here. Here we have got three, unpleasantly. So here, we have got words which are composed of more than two morphemes. They are called polymorphemic here. Of course, we can even have some morphemes containing 4, 5, even 6 morphemes. Okay, remember that the longest word in English that we presented last year, which was anti-disestablishmentarianism. Okay. Now, if a word can be subdivided into meaningful parts, but the parts cannot be associated in any reasonable way with the meaning of the whole, the word is a single morpheme. Look at this here. Barn, this is the example. Is it possible to divide it into bar and n on the basis that n is already identified as a morpheme in some words like shown, seen, known? In all these words, the n is what we call the past participle marker. Now, but of course the word barn does not follow the same pattern. The word barn is not the past participle of var here. So which means it's something else here. Now, hence, we cannot arrive at the meaning of bar by combining the meaning of bar and n. Other divisions are also not fruitful. For example, b and rn, or ba and rn. So what's the conclusion here? Barn is one single morpheme. Divisions between morphemes are typically marked with this sign here called external juncture. Or so, for example, we have got the word blacken can be divided into black, and we have got the division in here and en here. Now, some morphemes are composed of only part of a syllable. For example, the s at the end of cats, plays, jacks. So here we can talk about the case of homophony of morphemes. Morphemes are being, if you like, pronounced in the same way. For example, cats and jacks, s. Okay, different morphemes but pronounced in the same way. Now, homophony, I think you are already familiar with the notion of homophony, which means two words being written differently but pronounced in the same way. So we have got sun, sun here. This is what we call homophony, being pronounced in the same way. Here, the s, the plural one, and the possessive one here, they are pronounced in the same way. Okay, and even this s here, you know, when it connected to some verbs that end in voiceless sound here, we are going to consider this later on. Now look, er, we can say writer versus er in bigger. Okay, and the two ers here are not related but realized in the same sound, here. So this is a case of homophony. However, what about the er in butcher? Okay, the word butcher does not follow the same formation. It's not like a writer and bigger. The er is part of the word here. Okay. Now the opposite of homophony, okay, is the case where one morpheme is represented by several sounds. This is the case of the plural s. Of course, it's something that we will try to re-explain later on, okay? And we will try to go, deep into it later on. So others are represented by a single syllable. For example, fat, job, son. So here we have got a monosyllabic word, a monomorphemic word, and a monosyllabic word. Same thing here, same thing here. Others, which means other words, are represented by 2, 3, or more syllables, as in the words paper. So in the word paper we have got 2 syllables. It's what we call a bisyllabic word. But how many morphemes? It's monomorphemic, word. Tradition here, it's 3 syllables. It's polysyllabic word. Tobacco, once again, polysyllabic word, but monomorphemic word here. Okay, so in fact, the number of syllables does not coincide with the number of morphemes in words here. Now, classes of morphemes. We can talk about roots as opposed to bound morphemes. The roots, which means the base form of the word. Now, when we talk about roots, we can talk about we can identify bound roots and free roots. So, first of all, the root is the basic element in the word. Here, in unkind, the basic unit of the word is kind. But un is bound, is something which is added here. So the root is kind. But kind, since it exists alone, it can stand on its own, it is called free root. But what about placid, placid, implacable? In all these, we have got the root which is black here. But does it stand on its own? It cannot form a word by itself. Therefore, it is it's not free, it's a bound root here. So within the category of roots, we can identify bound roots and free roots. Free roots, they form words by themselves. They can stand on their own. But bound roots, they are the basic elements of their words, but they don't stand on their own. For example, black in here, and here, and here. So black is a bound root. It does not by itself constitute a whole word. Look, conceive. We have got many other examples, and this is just one among them. Sieve, in conceive, in perceive, in deceive. In all these words, sieve is the root here. But does it constitute a whole word by itself? Of course not. Therefore, it's a bound root here. Okay? Now, we can talk about this kind of opposition between free versus bound morphemes. For bound morphemes, or what we call affixes, the general word which includes prefixes, infixes, suffixes, and other things. Now, affixes are morphemes that occur only in conjunction with a root or some combination of roots and other affixes. The part of a word to which an affix is attached is called the stem. So we need just to clarify this notion of stem to make it different from the root. A root by itself may be a stem. So consider, for example, placid here, unkind, showy. Okay, so here, I mean these are the roots here. Black, kind is the root, show is the root. Here we add un, here we add y, here we add this ed here. Okay, but I mean, since we add this y to this, the root itself becomes the stem. Now suppose we are going to add something to showy. Showy in this case will become the stem plus another affix here. So let me repeat, a root by itself may be a stem. Look here. Or a stem may consist of a root plus one or more affixes. Look at the word uncomfortable. We have got un is affixed to the stem comfortable. So comfortable, here we have got the root comfort plus able. And the combination of the two forms the stem, to which we add un here. And so able, okay, so look, uncomfortable, un is affixed to the stem comfortable, and able to the stem comfort. So which means here, the root becomes the stem at the same time. But I mean, the stem can sometimes be, can be expanded, because here we can have the root together with some affix. Both of them can become the stem, to which we can add another affix here, like in here. Thus, a stem may include a stem. Affixes function in two ways. We can talk about different kinds of affixes here. We can talk about inflectional morphemes or inflectional affixes, as opposed to derivational morphemes or derivational affixes here. Let's talk about these examples. Talk, talks, talking, talked. So the s in here, the ing, the ed here are affixes, and in particular they are suffixes. Here we are talking about inflectional morphemes. They are inflectional morphemes here. Now the inflectional morphemes decline nouns and pronouns for number, gender, and case. Here we are citing the different grammatical functions of inflectional morphemes. Among these functions, we can say they decline nouns and pronouns for number, gender, and case. At the same time, they conjugate verbs for such things as aspect, mood, voice, number, and tense. They mark adjectives for the comparative and superlative, cases here. Now, derivational affixes. These establish the grammatical classification of a stem. They may change the part of the speech of a stem and may change the subclassification of a stem. For example, okay, from a noun to agent noun. Look here, we have got examples. Rewrite. Re is a derivation morpheme in here. Undo. Same thing. An is a derivation morpheme in here. Abnormal. Ex-president. Warmth. The th in here. Doable. Able. Derivational. So we have got shen and al. Okay. So, but okay, we know that all these in red and even the al in here, are all derivational morphemes. But let's clarify further this distinction between root and a stem here. Look, in rewrite, where is the root? It's right. And the bound morpheme is re. This bound morpheme is the derivation morpheme here. Now, this rewrite becomes the stem when we add to it another affix. For example, rewriting, ing here. So ing is added to the stem rewrite. But let's talk about the internal structure of rewrite. In rewrite we have got this the root, which becomes itself the stem to which we add re. Okay, so have this idea, the distinction between root and stem clear in your mind. Now, in English there are many derivational affixes, of course. Among them are the following. We have got ik, nes, eyes, ion, est, and er. This is just a simple list. Of course, you know that you have got a long list of these here. Now, these are just examples of what derivational morphemes can do. So ik, okay, can change nouns into adjectives. So seen is a noun. We can derive an adjective out of it by adding ik. It becomes scenic. We can talk about ness as a derivation morpheme. It can be added to adjectives to obtain nouns. For example, still, the adjective. We obtain stillness, the noun, out of it here. So if you like, we have got, these are morphological rules here. Okay, er, for example, it can be added to verbs to form the agent noun here. For example, bake plus er, it becomes baker, the agent here. Now, some derivational affixes don't keep the same meaning in different roots to which they are attached. For example, less. We know less is a derivational morpheme, and we know its meaning. It means without what is denoted by the root. For example, this is the root, cha. We know the meaning of it. Now, when we add to it less, it means without what is referred to by the root, without the meaning of job, without job. Okay, so jobless, without job. Home plus less, homeless, without home. But what about heartless? So here there is the absence of home, here there is the absence of job. But here, can we talk about the absence of heart? Okay, of course here people cannot live without heart. So here it's something that we have to interpret figuratively here. So less here does not keep exactly the same meaning. Here we're talking about feelings rather than the heart, the organ that exists in the human body. Now, consider also priceless. Does it mean that without price? So here it means too valuable to be valued here. Okay, compare valueless, which means without value, or worthless here. So consider these two cases here. So the same bit, the same morpheme does not keep the same meaning in different contexts here. Now, some derivation morphemes are more productive than others. Okay, we have got un. Here it can be attached to verbs to obtain the opposite of those verbs. For example, fold, unfold, cover, uncover, and we have got other things. Able, it can be attached to verbs. For example, do, doable, appreciate, appreciable, applicable, to apply. Okay, deplore, deplorable, drink, drinkable. So here these two are really productive. They can be attached to a great number of words, and they can obtain, they can help us obtain, for example, adjectives here. Okay, here they can help us obtain the negative, if you like, form of the verb here. Now, th is identified as a morpheme in English. It can be added, not to a wide range of words, but to some words. For example, warm, the adjective, plus th, it becomes the noun warmth. Wide, width, long, length here. But we have got restrictions as far as the distribution of this morpheme is concerned, it's not that free. It's not as free as able or un here. There are restrictions to the use of these derivational morphemes. Okay, so let's talk about further restrictions here. We can talk about re, which means repeating the action. We can say redo or rewrite, but we cannot say redig, re-eat. Of course, if somebody insists on them, he can show that the action of digging again, the action of eating again. But these are not things which are, used normally by native speakers. They are not acceptable here. So in fact, there are some restrictions as far as the distribution of morphemes, is concerned here. So they cannot be attached blindly to any root. So the affixes that we are talking about cannot be attached to any word we like, but of course we have got restrictions, which means that the moment you learn a word, the moment you learn a morpheme, you should know with which word it goes. And this is the end of this first part. Later on I'm going to record for you the second part of morphology.